Hello guys, Lunacy Saint Rhodes has had a rather complicated development path from its announced in 2018 to the end of July 2023. There were a couple of transfers, but the game still go to the release, with which our team congratulates the developers. Lunacy Saint Rhodes is not a game that breaks down different visions of horror game concepts. Rather, the fact is that the pursuit ideas are not fully developed and polished in the game. While the bulk of the game fully fills the basic requirements of a horror game, that makes these games enjoyable. The problems that exist make the game frustrating and not intimidating to play through. History: an ancestral haunted house. Lunacy Saint Rose is similar in its construction to Resident Evil 7. You follow Rhodes, a man who wakes up at his desk from a call from the sheriff asking if your parents' house can be searched. However, before agreeing, you want to inspect it yourself. The house is located in the town of Saint Rose, abandoned to the most dilapidated buildings. As you progress through the story, you begin to solve the mystery using small cutscenes, phone calls, and notes lying around. It's a decent plot that's enhanced by the random and disparate notes you come across. It's also not as straightforward and typical as other ghost horror games. As the story progresses, it gets weirder and weirder. Lunacy Saint Rhodes is about 7-10 hours long, and it has a surprising amount of different elements that add extra complexity and interest to it. But one thing that holds back the development of the plot is the voice acting. The voice acting ranges from acceptable to just bad. Some of them seem incredibly wooden, as if the voice actors are reading their text for the first time. Subsequently, the voice of a demon speaks to the protagonist and it sounds so strained. Dialogues don't help either. "Stop talking," says the demonic voice. "Chatter? What?" It doesn't work at all. Gameplay. Well, how do you play? Well, sometimes she's good, and sometimes it's incredibly disappointing. For the most part, you explore Rhodes' house located in the town of Saint Rhodes. Of course, you will also explore the village, but most of the time is devoted to the house. Exploration and backtracking is the key, as the further you advance, the more new paths open up. And, of course, scary creatures will meet you during the exploration. The only choice here is to run. Later in the game, you will be given some gear to help you defeat against these creatures, but mostly it's just a normal stun. This stun can be also used to see hidden items or barriers that can be destroyed. While the idea of being stunned sounds like a good idea, there comes a point in the game where creatures are constantly chasing you. The stun won't come in handy here. However, the problem is not the stun, but rather the fact that you are being hunted by the AI. He is relentless in the bad sense of the word. Compared to games like Resident Evil, where you can run away from a hunter by going into certain areas or confusing him, in Lunacy Saint Rhodes, an injured woman, half demon or ghost, with one horn on her head does not stop. She chases you through walls and only stops for a second after you stun her. If you manage to get far from her, she stupidly teleports to you. There is no room for respite, which makes exploration a boring activity. From interesting. However, when the AI isn't chasing you, the exploration and overall gameplay can be interesting. Some of the events that take place through the game given it a creepy feel, making you wonder if you should move on. Often this happens with the help of a camera. I counted several cases where events took place outside the screen. For example, I went into the room to find some object. Finding what I was looking for, I turned to leave. What I saw when I entered the rooms was different from what I saw when I left it. It was frightening. Actually, there are many such moments in the game. Things in the house seems to change, as if they are watching you. While Lunacy Saint Rhodes managed to create a horror game full of interesting ideas and interesting locations, it still feels boring. In many places it is not finalized and attempts to play it lead to disappointment. Perhaps over time these problems will be fixed, but for now only horror fans will be able to enjoy the game. Outcome: Lunacy Saint Rose is a game with a lot of potential, but in the end it was never fully revealed. It's hard to recommend due to various problems with artificial intelligence, sound and lighting. However, those who are ready to ignore these problems will be happy to see an interesting plot full of creative ideas.